Fight Island has arrived with the arrival of UFC 251. Not talking about Mortal Kombat, but it might as well be. Let's hit that intro. Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is the Commotion, and I'm Roshan Joshi here with Dan Smith, and this is the Sports Den. Talking about UFC 251 and a nice little recap of that. How you doing, Dan?
I'm doing good, man. I'm a little tired. The fights went kind of long last night, and we're doing this kind of early to get the content out. But other than that, I'm doing pretty good today.
We are doing this early. And just with that thought, because we're doing this so early, make sure to hit that like button. If you want to see more content like this, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on that notification bell. And if you like any of the music, check out Be The Human, info in the description below. Yeah, man. It was up to like 2 last night trying to keep up with all these fights.
Yeah, 2 a.m. Eastern time. I'm not sure what time it was in Abu Dhabi where the fights actually were.
I think it was like 6 a.m. or something like that when it started.
But it was late for here, man. Oof.
Yeah, and a lot of good fights on this card. Super excited. We're just going to go through the main event. And it's fun because we're going to go through all of the main event ones because they were all pretty good cards. And we were all very excited for them. So right off the bat, we are going to talk about the main event. Jorge Masvidal, Kamaru, Usman, and that bout between these two men. But before we even start talking about the fight, let's do a quick tail of the tape on these two fighters. Usman walked into this at 16-1. 6 feet, 170 pounds, 76-inch reach, and he had a switch stance, so southpaw. And Masvidal walked in at 35-13. Jeez, he had a long career. He's 5'11", 170 pounds, 74-inch reach, and an orthodox stance. And he had to cut a lot of weight for this fight, too. He had to cut like 20 pounds in like a week, which was no joke.
22 pounds in 6 days he cut.
Jeez. But the fight, man, the fight was actually pretty good. I really saw one thing that we kind of talked about in our last UFC recap, and that was having a game plan that worked and sticking with the game plan. And that's exactly what you saw Usman do throughout the fight. He was controlling the fight on the ground, and he was really sticking to that game plan. He wasn't really trying to stand up with him.
Yeah, I mean, so Usman, his strength comes in the wrestling. That's not a surprise to anybody. Game bred, his difference is that the dude's a fighter, like a straight up fighter. So his strength comes on the feet. So as a wrestler, right, who I know I'm going to get outstruck, Game bred's a little bit faster. His angles are a little bit better. He's a little bit twitchier. So as Usman, if I know that I don't really want to stand and just scrap with this guy, what am I going to do? I'm going to work the clinch game. I'm going to keep pressing. I'm going to remove that distance. I'm going to get the fight to where I'm comfortable having it. And then I'm going to dominate and control the fight from there, especially on a guy that has only had 6 days to prepare for me. So a lot of people argue that it's a boring way to fight. A lot of people argue that Usman is a point fighter, so he's only fighting for points and not really to finish people, versus Masvidal is a finisher most recently. So my thing is this, it's part of the fight game. You heard the same thing from Floyd Mayweather for years. Oh, he's a defensive fighter, he's boring, he's this, he's that. Yeah, but he wins.
Well, and that's the thing that like a lot of people tend to forget is that guys, this is not a street fight. This is a sport.
Right.
And if you have to be tactical about your battle plan in a sport, you're going to do it. If you're playing football and you want to know that their defense is really good against the run, you're going to pass the ball. And vice versa. If you know that they're really good against the pass, you're going to run the ball. And the same thing in fighting.
You hear it all the time from your coaches and your corners, fight your fight. Don't get sucked into his fight. And that's kind of what this means. It's kind of a stupid saying if you're a layman and you don't really know what we're talking about. But the idea is that we're all different styles of fighters. I'm a much different style of fighter than Roshan you are.
Yeah,
So
I'm more of a ranged guy. I like to use my teeps to keep people away,
right.
and you're more of the get inside and hit the
Right.
body and hit the top and really pound it out.
100%. Our styles clash. It would be very, very difficult to take you and force you to fight my style. Vice versa, it would be very, very difficult to take me and force me to fight your style. So doing that takes people out of their comfort zone, takes them where they're not comfortable, and it exposes errors and exposes mistakes. So that's what Usman did. He forced Masvidal to fight his fight, which forced errors, forced mistakes, and ultimately led to the victory for Usman.
Yeah, and you really did see that high energy out of Masvidal in the beginning, but then that really started to collapse. Was this his first 5-round fight, I think?
It's definitely his first. Well, in the UFC, it's his first 5-round.
Yeah, well, it really, and he's been a UFC fighter for a little bit now, so
yeah,
it's been a while.
Because this is the first time he's ever fought for a championship.
Yeah, and not the BMF championship, which is such a good fight. But I digress.
So I was actually really surprised with Masvidal's wrestling. His ability to stuff the takedowns. Usman went for 16 takedowns. He only got 5.
Yeah, he stuffed 11 takedowns.
He stuffed a lot of takedowns. And then really, he didn't spend that much time on the ground. So a lot of the control, Usman controlled the fight for 16 minutes and 38 seconds. A lot of that control came against the cage.
Exactly. And that was part of the game plan as well.
Right. Because you're not going to let Masvidal wind up and tee off on you.
And Masvidal was doing a good job getting back on his feet.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. He didn't spend a lot of time on the ground. He was taken down a couple times. He was taken down those 5 times, but he didn't spend a lot of time down there. And there was not even any submission attempts.
No, in the whole fight.
So,
I think
all control.
I think Masvidal, and I think he even noticed that he says that he wants to get back, fight whoever he has to fight so that he can get back that championship spot, which is very different than what he was saying earlier when he was like, dude, I just want to get paid. But now I guess he got a taste of it. But now I think he realizes his gas tank is something he has to work on. Because I think the 4th and the 5th round, you kind of saw the difference in the championship rounds versus the 1st through the 3rd.
100%. But here's the difference with that, okay? He took the fight on 6 days' notice. Now, at the end of the day, there's no excuses because he signed his name on the contract.
And that's exactly what he says, and I love it.
Yeah, there's no excuses at the end of the day. However, if you want to really peel back the onion and really kind of look at the different layers, even though he's an active fighter, right? And he is always training, and he was sparring with a lot of different guys, and he was bringing in a bunch of different wrestlers, and he was helping somebody else get ready. I forget who he's helping. It might have been Volkanovski. I forget who he was helping somebody else get ready for their fight. So he was in the mix. He wasn't sitting on his couch eating Doritos the entire time. However, it's the same thing with football. It doesn't matter how long you've been playing the game. It doesn't matter how in good of shape you keep yourself in the off season. You still need a training camp. You still need to get back into it. You still need to condition your body. So I'm not gonna peg him to the wall as saying he needs to work on his gas tank, because this is the first time I've really ever seen him tired like that. So I'm going to attribute it to the fact that he wasn't able to condition his body and condition his cardio for fight level, championship fight level mixed martial arts.
And I totally agree with that, where you do need a fight camp, and it really does help, especially when you are trying to do a 5-round fight. The nice thing about Masvidal, the thing I respect about Masvidal, is the accountability that he holds for himself. So when a man does that, you tend to hold him accountable as well. If he doesn't make any excuses for himself, which I love, he's the kind of dude that I think he wants to walk, because honestly, he walks around at fighting level, because he came into this fight at fighting level.
Yeah.
He wants to walk around at championship level. If he improves that gas tank, he'll be the kind of guy to be able to pick up a fight, and it could be a 5-round fight. And because we just saw him pick up a 3-round fight, 6 days, did pretty friggin' well.
This was a 5-round.
Huh?
This was a 5-rounder.
No. I correct. I'm sorry. But yeah. So we saw him do pretty well with the 5-rounder.
Yeah.
If he works on his gas tank a little bit more, imagine if he was a little bit more prepared.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think that preparation comes with time, and somebody 6 days is difficult,
especially during the pandemic.
Most fight camps are 12 weeks minimum.
All right, you twisted me a little bit. I was gonna hold him accountable, just like he held himself accountable. But understood. I see what you mean.
There's also a massive log jam at the top of this division, this welterweight division, and I don't think Masvidal is going to get another shot.
And he's kind of old too. Like, he's getting there.
He's getting up there. He's still got some time, but I mean, you're talking about, so Kamaru Usman is the champ. Obviously, this is undisputed at this point. You have Gilbert Burns, who was supposed to fight him for this card, but pulled out because of COVID, so he's still in the mix. Leon Edwards, everybody forgets about Leon Edwards. Yeah. Leon Edwards has gone on a tear through this division. He should be the number one contender. He got jumped by Burns and jumped by Masvidal.
Yeah, Masvidal smacked him in the face.
So Leon Edwards should really be the number one contender here. And then you still have Colby Covington in the mix, who obviously lost his belt to Usman. Well, the interim belt, but he lost the belt to Usman, but he's still in the mix because he just lost the belt. And then I know that he just had like a really, really poor showing, but Tyron Woodley is a former champ in this division, and he's in there as well. So you have a serious logjam at the top of this division. And I don't think Masvidal should get like an immediate rematch, which I don't think that they're.
No, they shouldn't even do that. That would.
I don't even think it should be like you fight one more fight, and if you get the win, then you get the champ again. I mean, I think other guys need to get their shot here in this welterweight division.
Agreed. Let's definitely see what the showing looks like as well. If you're gonna win a fight and you look like crap, because you both look like crap, you shouldn't get your shot.
Right. So I'm very, very interested. So Usman is at the top. I want to see Gilbert Burns fight Leon Edwards.
Okay.
That's what I think the next fight should be. Because, like I said, you really don't have a number one contender because there's so many guys who can make claim to it. So I want to see Gilbert Burns fight Leon Edwards. Whoever wins that fight, they get Usman next.
Okay. I like that. I know we talked a whole lot about Masvidal. I do want to give Usman his credit. Usman had a game plan. He walked in. He rocked his game plan. He's a champion for a reason. So credit to Usman. Credit to the Nigerian Nightmare. Hopefully we get to continue to see real crazy things out of him. And
once again, man, you're seeing another division getting dominated by wrestlers.
Yeah.
And this is something that you and we touched on earlier when we first started doing this podcast. I'm sure it's something that we're going to be discussing and touching on moving on in the future. But you look at the Henry Cejudos of the world, you look at the Daniel Cormiers of the world, you look at the Khabibs of the world, you look at the Kamaru Usmans of the world. These guys are wrestlers. And they're dominating their divisions, and they're very, very hard to beat. And if you don't have good wrestling, you're going to get beat by them.
Well, I mean, when you wrestling is a very, very different type of sport. It creates your body into just an explosive, short, explosive, and just great amount of strength comes from that. Before we move on to the next fight, I kind of want to see Masvidal fight Pettis. I think that'll be good. That'll be a good little. I know Pettis just came off of a win, but I think that would be like a good one right there, because who else is he gonna fight? He's not gonna fight Conor right now. He's not gonna fight Nate Diaz because he just beat Nate Diaz.
To be honest, I'd like to see him fight Colby Covington.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'm not a big Covington fan, but I think he's just ranked a little high right now.
Well, the thing is, at the end of the day, you have to respect the ranking. So if a guy is ranked high, it's for a reason. I mean,
you know what? No. You know what? I take it back. All right, I take exactly what I say back. Only because now that I think about it, Covington just took a loss to Usman. Masvidal just took a loss to Usman. Smack them together.
Right.
Make them fight it out for the third place in contention.
Right. So then you have, Usman at the top. Whoever wins Gilbert Burns, Leon Edwards. I think Gilbert Burns will win that fight. And then you have Masvidal, Colby Covington for number 3.
I like that.
And then have the loser of Burns Edwards and the loser of Masvidal Covington. Those 2 fighters fight, and there's your number 4 and 5 rankings.
Love it, Dana. Hope you're listening.
So that's what I would do. Only because there's such a log jam at the top.
Dana, you've heard, man. You've heard. Let's make it happen. Let's go into the biggest, I want to say, robbery of the night. Some people are saying it's close. We'll see. We're going to talk about the Max Holloway versus Alex Volkanovski fight. Before we get into the fight details, let's go into the tail of the tape. They both weighed in at 145. Holloway has a 70-inch reach. He's 5'11", and he fights switch stance, so he fights goofy, but he switches his feet a lot, so he can go either way. Volkanovski, 145 pounds, 71.5-inch reach, and he is 5'6", and he fights orthodox. Holloway's 28. This Volkanovski is 31. So get into the fight, man. I want to hear what you have to think. And then I'm gonna go into my rant here.
So here's the thing. For me, I thought Max Holloway won this fight. I definitely think he won rounds 1 and 2. Rounds 3 and 4 could be a toss-up. Rounds 5, Volkanovski won. So that's not even. I think that's pretty concrete. So now you're going to focus on rounds 3 and 4 because those are the rounds that hinge on who actually won this fight. I think Max won round 3. So that gives him rounds 1, 2, and 3. That gives him the win, in my opinion. Here's the thing, though. And you've seen this time and time again, and we've discussed judging in mixed martial arts. These people don't know what they're looking for. The majority of them have no fight experience. Here's the other aspect of it that nobody really talks about. It's the most recent impression gives them their bearing on the fight. So you could lose an entire round, but if you bursted the last 30 seconds of that round and you put the hammer on somebody and you beat somebody up, that last 30 seconds is going to be their impression of that fight, and they may give that round to you. So that's something that people need to understand and need to discuss about judging, is that it's very visceral, it's very visual. They did a study, and I don't mean to digress, but they did a study where they had one group of judges ringside, another group of judges, and these aren't just random people, these are judges, right? In a soundproof room just watching the fights. And the scores were completely different, polar opposites, because of the noise and the atmosphere swaying your opinion as a judge. So if you hear a bunch of crowd noise, now I know there was no crowd at the UFC fight night, but you still have corners, you have the commentators.
They were pretty loud, the corners, the commentators.
You still have all of this stuff, this outside influence happening and influencing your decisions on what's happening. So if if all you're hearing is Michael Bisping talking about how this guy is such a great fighter and he's amazing, he's moving so well, and he's touching this guy up and he can't be touched, and he's really lighting him up, and he's scoring so well, and he's, oh my God, these head kicks are landing, and oh, look at the inside. That's going to affect how you judge. I don't know how you give this fight to Volkanovski. This is my one caveat for it, though. 2 things. Number 1, Volkanovski outstruck Holloway. He had more strikes landed. He had more takedowns.
Yeah, he had 3 takedowns.
Okay, so he had more strikes landed overall with everything. He had more control, more strikes landed, and more takedowns. Number 2, it is not the champ's job to beat the challenger. It is the challenger's job to beat the champ.
Thank you.
If it's a coin toss, sorry, tie goes to the offense. So if it's a coin toss, you're the champ for the reason. You're wearing that belt for the reason. You should get the tiebreaker. That's in my opinion. So if it's like, I don't know who won that round, well, this guy's the champ, so I guess he won it. That's how I think it should be. It's the onus is on the challenger to beat the champ. And that's where I'll leave it.
I could not agree more with that statement. Dude, so in my opinion, Holloway won clearly. 4 and 5, I give to Volkanovski, clearly. 3, I don't even think that was a toss-up. I think Max Holloway won the fight. Yeah. I think Bisping chirping on the side. I don't want to say chirping. That's wrong. He was announcing, but in his own. It wasn't reporting. It was analysis. Yeah, exactly. That had a big sway on the fight. I think that Holloway got robbed. Highway robbery, because he should have won that fight. When I think a lot of people were counting 3-2.
Yeah.
Whether he had more takedowns, whether he had more significant strikes, those were all poured on towards the end. Great, you found a fucking gas tank at the end, but that means nothing, because you can't even when you haven't worked in the first few rounds, you got to try to work for that fatality. You got to work for that knockout. That's what he should have gone for. Great, you poured it on at the end, but you wasted round 1, 2, and 3 in my book. I don't think he wasted round 3, but round 3 he did get outworked, in my opinion. I think that Max had a lot of great counters. You saw the kicks, which you're not really seeing a lot of kicks in these fights.
No.
And I just even mean this was I just meant leg kicks. Nobody's going for the top in this whole entire card. But yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. What we're going to leave it at is the UFC really needs to take into account their judges and their refs. Yeah. So going from
point on that. So the judges and the refs have nothing to do with the UFC. They're the governing body that governs UFC. So that's like USADA.
What I'm saying is that he needs to put into account some sort of tests or regulations for the safety of his fighters.
Yeah. Well, again,
and the integrity of his sport.
I think it comes down to, at the end of the day, you can't leave it in the hands of the judges. And Max Holloway took his foot off the gas towards the end of that fight.
Yeah. Okay.
So he, in his mind, he won rounds 1, 2, and 3. Round 4 was a toss-up. Round 5, all right, I'm going to take the guy. Guy already won the fight. I just need to not get knocked out. And then that's what happened. So at the end of the day, I think Max Holloway won that fight. But
But also going back to what you said, he's a champion. And also, I think if you think you secured round 1, 2, and 3, and you want to take your foot off the gas pedal on 5 to save yourself from battle damage for the next fight or just life.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think that's smart fighting.
I don't hate that decision. It is smart fighting, but now you're putting it in the hands of judges.
Yeah, agreed.
And that is dangerous every time.
Agreed. We're gonna breeze right through these last 3. Those 2 were the ones I really wanted to cover with you. So Petr Yan and Jose Aldo. I remember walking into this fight. I kept on telling everybody that I thought Jose Aldo was an old dude. I thought he was going to look bad. He's been fighting forever. So I thought he had no business being in there with Petr Yan. But Jose Aldo looked really, really good throughout the whole entire fight. He looked great. His head movement was there. He was throwing good combos. The one thing, so the whole fight I thought was great. The one thing, and both guys worked. Petr Yan worked as well. He was catching kicks. He was doing good. The one thing that I do want to say is that the refs, that was some of the worst that was the worst stoppage I've ever seen in my life. It took, for me personally, I counted 127 seconds between thinking that this fight is over and the ref actually saying this fight is actually over. Not 127 seconds, a minute and 27 seconds. Apologies.
Yeah. It was, again, it's such a hard thing because I thought the fight was over as well, and I thought the fight should have been stopped earlier as well. But you could almost see the hesitation in the ref. You could see okay, I'm going to stop this fight right now, and then Jose Aldo just did something. So Jose Aldo was defending himself. He was making moves every time. But you brought up a good point when we were talking a little bit earlier. It should be like, okay, I'm going to give you 5 seconds, like in my own mental clock, my mental timetable, I'm going to give you 5 seconds to make a move, otherwise I'm stopping the fight. Okay, you're in a bad spot again, I'm giving you 3 seconds to make a move, otherwise I'm stopping the fight. Okay, you're in a bad spot again, I'm giving you 2 seconds. You know what I mean? There should be some sort of countdown where just because he makes one move to grab a leg, it shouldn't automatically reset that clock to, all right, I'll give him another minute.
Agreed.
You know? And Jose Aldo was done. He was done in that fight. Petr Yan is I think youth was the factor in this, because I don't think technically Jose Aldo was outclassed. I don't think that he was outstruck, really. I mean, these guys were pretty even in the first 3 rounds in terms of striking.
Agreed.
Yan pulled away big time in the 4th, and definitely in the 5th. But no, I'm sorry. That was the 3rd round that fight was stopped, right?
No, 5th.
That was the 5th?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So he pulled away in the 4th and the 5th, and then with the stoppage, it's tough because Jose Aldo is a legend. He's an absolute legend.
Exactly, and I don't want to see my legends walking around with mental issues or physical issues because a ref stinks at stopping a fight.
Well, it comes down to, so the flip side of that coin is it comes down to the Dominic Cruz-Henry Cejudo fight. So Dominic Cruz is another legend, walking legend of mixed martial arts, and that fight got stopped early. So you robbed a legend of part of their legacy. Jose Aldo's coming for a belt. If I'm the ref, I'm giving Jose Aldo every chance I possibly can. I'm a fan.
I mean, I agree, but literally, and I'm just going to leave it at this point, and you can give the rebuttal. They painted a quarter of the canvas with his face.
Yeah.
If you see the blood on the... They painted a quarter of the canvas with this man's face.
You're right. Hey, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say that the ref should not have stopped the fight earlier. He absolutely should have. But I get it. Because you don't want to be the guy that does the early stoppage and robs Jose Aldo of a title shot, of his title chances. However, though, and I'll leave it at this, I know that we're going to do this segment in the future, but somebody gave 2 locks on this card. And one of the locks was this fight. Do you remember who that was?
I do. And that was our resident locksmith, Mr. Dan Smith. And guys, a week before or maybe like 5 days before the next UFC fight, we're going to have all of the bets and the spreads and who we think is going to win. Dan is the resident expert. I'm the resident apprentice. So he'll kind of be going through it. I'm going to be giving my not locksmith, my not locks, but I'll try to throw in what I think in my opinion here and there, and then we'll see what goes on. We'll see after a while who's making the right picks.
There you go. I'm just saying, Commotion Crew, you would have made some money with me last night.
You would have made some money, so stay tuned. Gonna run real quick through Paige, because that's going to be an easy... no? Okay, cool.
What are we even going to talk about? The girl doesn't want to fight. She wants to be famous. Let her go do Instagram. Let her make her money there, like she said. Get a couple movie roles. She doesn't want to fight. I could have gotten out of that armbar. Me.
And that's all we have to say about the Rebus Vincent fight. And I agree, by the way. I'm with him on that 100%. You want to be out, be out. Right. And then also, real fast, good job, Rebus, on submitting, but not only submitting, but Paige almost got out. So you adjusted, and you got the finish. So great job, awesome to watch that, and good early stoppage for yourself because you don't want to take that damage either.
Right.
Real fast, we're gonna go into the Thug Rose fight.
This was my number 1 lock, folks. This was my number 1 lock.
So you know what? All right, I'll just give the quick overview, which is extremely highly technical fight. Mm-hmm. I love watching really technical fights, and you're seeing it more out of the women now. So real good, real technical fight. The one thing that I really like and that we're not seeing a lot is when people are on their back now, instead of working the jiu-jitsu, they just kind of grab, pull, and then try to get back up. You saw Thug actually try to work her jiu-jitsu. You saw her go for an armbar real quick. You saw her go for a triangle real quick. You saw proper movement from the bottom. So that was dope. I really had an appreciation for that fight. Not sure it should have been a split, but it was close. So, but I had Rose winning, and I am with you on that. She took home that. She got messed up, but she took it home.
I could see the split because that last round 3, Andrade did a lot of damage.
Okay.
So she's a much more compact fighter. She has way more bulk on her. She has way more strength on her than Rose does. And Rose isn't really a knockout artist. Rose is going to piece you up. Rose is going to wear you down. And then over time, the accumulation of those strikes and all that stuff, that's what's going to put you down. She doesn't have a one-hitter quitter on her. Andrade does. And you saw that with who was wearing more damage at the end of the fight.
Oh,
Andrade
yeah.
was a little scuffed up, a little beat up, had a couple, mouse here, mouse there. Rose, half her face is swollen off of a couple uppercuts. So that's the difference there. But now it comes to what we were saying before about forcing somebody to fight your fight. Rose does not want to get into a grappling match. She does not want to get into a clinch match, I should say, with Andrade, because Andrade is that much stronger. And that's what happened last time when Rose got dumped on her head. So what's she going to do? She's going to work her jab. She's going to move around the cage. She's going to use her angles. She's going to touch her up and just do enough to keep her at distance and accumulate that damage over time. And that's what she did. She used her speed and her technical skills and savvy to beat Jessica Andrade, which is what she was doing in the first fight until she got caught in a bad spot. The reality is Jessica Andrade is not as good of a fighter as Rose Namajunas is, and Rose never should have lost her belt to her. Andrade got lucky, in my opinion, in that first fight. So this was a really, really good redeeming fight, and I cannot wait to see this title fight for Rose. This is going to be amazing.
Agreed. And that strawweight division is stacked. I am so glad a couple of years back that the UFC brought women into the sport, because we have gems like Thug Rose out here just giving us. It's not even like she's wiping the floor with everybody. She's not. She's just giving us really good technical fights to watch. Got great hands, great head movement. Only one critique that I would give of her is like, land more of your strikes. Don't try to outset everything up, because when you have 83 shots hit out of 235, all right, I get it. You're trying to set your shot up. Come on, like at least hit half your shots.
She's a volume puncher. Like I said, man, her deal is accumulation.
Yeah.
And, with Rose, she's one of my favorite fighters, period. Favorite fighters, period, to watch in the UFC. Male, female, whatever. And her technical skills and technical savvy, I was really fully on display when she fought Joanna. Because up until that point in time, Joanna, I thought was probably the most technically sound striker in the UFC, period. And then Rose just absolutely dominated her twice. Okay? And then you have Weili Zhang, who is another insanely...
Oh, yeah, no, she's looking good, and she's technical.
Insanely technical fighter. So Weili and Joanna had an amazing fight, arguably the best women's fight of all time, just a couple of weeks ago. And now you're going to have Rose as the next contender for Weili Zhang? This is amazing. I love it. I have no words. I have no words for how excited I am for this.
Love it. And we are going to have a lot more awesome fights coming ahead. Looking forward to the next UFC as well. So next one we'll be covering will be July 25th, UFC 174. Robert Whittaker and Darren Till.
Yeah.
Because they will be we'll be seeing who will be getting like that title shot pretty much afterwards. These are two contenders. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, definitely. Rob Whittaker, former champ. Darren Till has fought for a belt in the past, albeit in a different division. Paulo Costa. He's going to get the next title fight against Izzy. And then I believe the winner of this fight here, Whitaker-Till, will get the shot at whoever wins that championship fight.
I like me some Darren Till, man. Everybody's getting it.
And don't sleep with my boy Alexander Gustafsson in his heavyweight debut on that card as well.
Okay, we will definitely keep an eye on him, especially watching him fight Verdum.
Yep.
All right. Well, this was a good one. This was fun. Hopefully you guys like this segment of the Sports Den on the Commotion. Once again, this is the UFC 251 recap. I'm Roshan Joshi here with Dan Smith. If you like any of our content, make sure to hit that like button. If you want to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and we will see you guys next time. Stay blessed.
Grinding my whole life. Stop that. Grinding my whole life.